So playoff time is here, talking a lot about everything that's going on in the playoffs. And second round has started for most teams, but not for everybody. We've seen the Milwaukee Bucks already down 1-0. My man, Jamal Murphy's here, says, sometimes people overreact to game ones, but we did not see the Milwaukee Bucks, who were the number one overall seed, guys. They're supposed to take care of business. We didn't really see it from Giannis. A lot of questions about Giannis here, although Brian Fonseca's here. He'll tell you that he's not surprised because this is what Miami was supposed to do. I know my man Gerard Hector is also here. He's probably got a little bit concerned. So we're going to talk a little bit about Giannis and what we think of Giannis at this stage in his playoff career. Is there pressure on him? A lot of questions I want to know. So let's start off with this first, guys. The Bucks losing game one to the Heat. Who was surprised and who wasn't surprised? I'm going to start with Brian because we damn well know that he was not surprised.
Yeah, it was a shocking turn of events last night in the bubble. Miami taking it to Milwaukee. Who could have seen that coming in game one? Never in my wildest imagination that I think Jimmy Butler would outplay Giannis in game one of a playoffs. I mean, look, it's what I've been saying all season long. And here's the thing. I agree. I don't overreact to game ones. Like, this stuff was happening last time where Portland beat the Lakers and the Clippers lost to Dallas. And I was like, all right, I need to see it in game two for it to be real. This is different. This is different because all season long, probably even before the season began, we did a podcast where I was like, look, I think Miami could take it to Milwaukee in a 7-game series. I said that they're probably the team best equipped to deal with Milwaukee in the playoffs. Although that's not to say that Boston or Toronto, we'll get to them later, I guess, wouldn't be equipped to deal with Milwaukee. But in terms of not caring about what the other team could provide, not really respecting what they can do, having a better coach the entire series, every single game will probably outcoach the best coach in the Eastern Conference regular season, and just not even being on a home floor and away floor, they're on a neutral court situation. And what they did to Giannis yesterday, and although he almost had a triple-double, he still struggled if you just watch the game. This is what's been going on all season. Like, almost every quarter they've played in, they've really frustrated Milwaukee. They won a game without Jimmy Butler very early on in the season that looked eerily similar to what happened in this game, except that game also went to overtime and Miami won, whereas this time around it didn't even need overtime. Milwaukee just did what they did and didn't really play great fourth quarter basketball. And in some respects, like, they've been blowing out a lot of teams in the regular season. I feel like they don't have as much close game experience as some of these other teams that we're seeing that have had to compete in closer game situations. And one of my concerns going into the bubble was Giannis down the stretch in the last 3 minutes of a game or so. How is he getting you the buckets? Like, is he just gonna bulldoze his way to the rim and get fouls? Because it's not going to always work in the playoffs. Is he going to cross you up and, shoot a jumper in your face? Because that's not really his game. And Miami's figured this out, and they know what it takes to beat this team, and I think they could do it over the course of a 7-game series, like I said before the series began.
So here's the thing, though. Who is this on? And I'll pass this to Gerard and Jamal. Is this on Giannis when you see a performance like he had in game one, like Brian said, close to a triple-double, shot 50% from the field? You want to see a little bit better. Is this on him? Is anything that goes wrong with the Bucks, is it on him?
I mean, look, I'll first agree with Brian's point that let's not overreact about game one, right? We all on this podcast believe it's going to be a long series, right? We anticipate 6-7 games. So it's going to have some ebb and flow and some back and forth. I do think, however, that as Giannis, the way he is held up as now, or not even but like either co-face of the league or whatever you want to call him now, right? But like, he's that guy. He just won his first Defensive Player of the Year award. In all likelihood, he's going to win his second consecutive MVP award. By the way, joining only 2 dudes do it in the same season, which is insane. Okay. Giannis is nice, and homie can ball, and he is excellent. However, Miami has a great sort of mindset and strategy, and Jimmy is a big part of that. And it was almost similar to how Dallas played the Clippers in the first round. Jimmy infuses them with his I don't give a fuck attitude. And they are all on board with that. Jimmy don't care that Giannis is DPOY, going to win MVP. If you were to ask Jimmy Butler right now, who's better, you or Giannis? You know he's going to say him, right? He definitely ain't going to say Giannis. Like, that's just how he is and how he carries himself. And everybody on the Heat are like, yeah, we following that dude. And that all fits into the Miami culture and all that. So a lot of times when you see a team like, oh, the Lakers, they got LeBron and AD. Oh, the Clippers, they got this person, this person. Some of those teams give them a little bit, maybe extra reverence about being so good. Jimmy's like, man, fuck that. Like, he's like, Milwaukee and fuck that. Like, he's not worried about them like that. Like, he doesn't disrespect them, but he's not like cowering in fear. Like, in his mind, whether true or not, he believes we're as good or better than this team, and we can beat them. Now, whose fault it is? Game one, Giannis will look at the tape and be like, all right, I got to take some blame here. There's some things he could have done better. But what's going to ultimately happen in this series, and Brian hit the nail on the head, it's going to come down to Bud making quicker adjustments than he normally does, which is something Bud doesn't always do. And let's be real. Bud ain't the best coach in the Eastern Conference. I know Brian put quotes because he doesn't believe it either. First of all, Spo's better than him. We know Nick Nurse is better than him. Mm-hmm. And I'll even say,
your boy,
I hate this team.
Your boy,
Brad Stevens is better than him, right?
What?
So at best, he's the fourth best coach out of these four that are remaining, right? Let's just call that what it is.
Oh, so Gerard, you talked about the fact that Giannis might look at this tape and when he sits in film session and say that there's more that he needs to do. Jamal, what more can Giannis do here? I think a lot of it has to do with the outside shot that we're not seeing in the way we're seeing teams defend him in the postseason, which is something I know all of us have talked about going into this. What more does he need to do? And is this game 2 that we're about to see, I don't know if we're there yet, but is this a kind of a watershed moment for Giannis where he's got to step up big time in a big game?
I mean, he just has to be more patient. I mean, it's just like any other series. You got to recognize what teams do to you and adjust. Obviously, Miami is a better defensive team than Orlando is. It's not even close. Okay, and they have a better, they have a better coach, as was mentioned. So they have a better scheme, and it is a scheme. Okay, it's not just one guy sitting back saying take the jumper, because people have been trying to do that all year, and he can get around that. It's team defense. When they say we're putting up a wall, that's 4 guys, who part of their responsibility is Giannis. Make sure he doesn't get to the hole. So he has to recognize that he's not going to put up 30 plus every night. It's just not going to happen against Miami. So it is going to be a situation where he needs to be even more unselfish. Even though he is an unselfish player, he just needs to be more patient, I'll say, because what happened in the first game is, he had a lot of I forget, he had at least 5-6 turnovers. A lot of times still trying to dribble into the wall, and that's not going to help. So he needs, he had 9 assists, I think. We're talking about, and it's been mentioned before. Yes, Giannis had a bad game. He did, but he still had 18, 10, and 9. Okay, so that's a pretty good. That's like a LeBron James bad game. So I think he just needs to. He's going to need to adjust. It is on him, because he's going to need to play in a way where he doesn't get frustrated that he's not going to be able to put up 30 plus. Okay, so you got to, maybe those assists have to go up to 12 or 13. Okay, and you need to pick his spots, and he needs to hit his free throws. He was turning the ball over and missing free throws. That's where he had a bad game in game 1. And any great player, the test of any great player is how you adjust to how teams are playing you. The bad sign for Milwaukee is that Middleton had a good game. The other Korver had a good game. You can't really expect that every night from those guys. I'll give you Bledsoe. I was scared right away from Milwaukee when I saw Bledsoe wasn't playing game 1. Mm-hmm. I instantly got online and took Miami +5 when that happened. I thought Milwaukee still could win, but by a point or two. I'm not saying I knew Miami was going to win, but that's a big deal if they don't have their complete squad. But yeah, so to answer your question, Giannis is going to have to play better. He didn't play well game 1, but we got to wait and see how he adjusts, because we know he's a superstar in the league. So we can't just think that every game is going to go like game 1 did for him.
Yeah,
I thought you back off that really quick, Dex. Sorry to cut you off. I agree with Murph 100% on that. That it is Giannis will have to make some adjustments, and he does get frustrated. You do notice that. And but it's not that he doesn't know what to do. he does get more aggressive, want to drive to the lane, starts drawing them offensive fouls, and that gets him out of rhythm. His issue right now, and Brian knows this too because he talks about it all the time, in the playoffs, you can't just get to the rim at will. That's not, people ain't gonna let you do that.
Right.
He does not have that part of his game, right? He ain't Kevin Durant. He cannot kill you in the mid-range. That is not his game right now. Now, he develops that. He's the greatest player on planet Earth, and there's no stopping him. But he has to develop that game where if the pass isn't available or if someone's struggling shooting and they're recovering out to the wing, can I knock down that 20-foot, 18 to 22-foot jump shot? Right now, he cannot do that consistently. That's what you want him to do.
But also, just he does have skills that Durant doesn't possess also.
Oh,
right?
no doubt.
So he's not the scorer, but he's a ball handler, passer, rebounder, and he needs to up those. He needs to up those things too. I mean, I never saw Durant average close to 10 assists in the playoffs.
Because he's never been a primary ball handler.
Assists, I mean, they're different players. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Durant is a better score shooter, but Giannis brings stuff to the game that we haven't seen at that size.
I will say this: if you did a 5-out, if you put Durant in a system like how LeBron's had for years, where it's him in his prime, pre-Achilles, and you put 4 shooters around him, like how Milwaukee does, guarantee you'd average 8-9 assists a game, guaranteed, 100%.
If it was a split,
I give him 7.
Guarantee you would.
It will be interesting. I think the points, Gerard, you bring up, I think he absolutely has to improve. And Jamal, you brought this up too. I think he has to definitely improve on the shot and pick his spots. He did not look comfortable at all in Game 1, and just in terms of playing the games. And he did seem to be frustrated by the defense. But I think as he can get confident, I have no reason to not believe that Giannis' shot will not improve. But I think that's going to be the difference between him figuring out these defenses or schemes that Jamal was talking about and not. If you can hit the mid-range, if you can step out and hit the 3 around 34, 35%, where people have to at least put a hand up on him, I think things can be better, and he'll be able to make better plays for his teammates. But we shall see. Now, on to another player who I've said for a long time probably does not get the respect that he deserves. He came up big in Game 6 of his series against the Houston Rockets, and that is Chris Paul. We like to call him the point god because he's still killing it at age 35. And Chris Paul was brilliant down the stretch of this game. Chris Paul, as we talk about, when I say he doesn't get the respect he deserves, we've seen for years people talk about, oh, Chris Paul hasn't gotten this far in the playoffs. He hasn't done this. I've always argued, guys, it's not been because of Chris Paul. Go look at the playoff numbers. Pretty damn good. He's been consistently good. Are you guys surprised at what Chris Paul has been able to do at this age in this stage of his career in the playoffs with this Oklahoma City Thunder team?
Not at all.
Not really. I think I was actually surprised that Robert Covington couldn't fucking guard him yesterday. That was a little surprising to me. It was step back 3, another step back 3, and it was ridiculous. They threw their best defender at him. But I mean, look, if we're being honest here, and I know you're supposed to be objective, whatever. Y'all know how I feel about the Houston Rockets. So I'm glad Chris Paul did that shit, and I'm hoping that he does it again in Game 7. Because I ain't trying to see Houston play basketball.
I was going to say, because you rooting for LeBron and Lakers. You don't want to see no Houston Rockets in the
No,
second round.
I'm not rooting for the Lakers. I'm just rooting against Houston because I don't like what they're doing with basketball right now. Straight up. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention that they have my least favorite starter watching the NBA.
All right. This ain't a James Harden bashing session. All right.
I'm just keeping it real. Least favorite star to watch in the league. That's just me. I mean, there aren't that many stars to choose from, so you got to dislike one of them. You know what I'm saying?
You don't have to, but okay.
I don't mean that as a personal, thing or whatever the case may be. I mean, he wore Blue Lives Matter mask by accident before, but
So this is the James Harden slander fest.
Nah, it's a joke. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no, it's not a joke. It actually did happen. He was like, "Oh, it looked cool," which whatever. Yeah. I with Chris Paul. I mean, I told you in the group text, he's probably the 3rd best point guard that I've seen in my lifetime. Now, keep in mind, I was born after Magic Johnson played. Well, he came back for that half season, but I was I was 1 year old and he was already bald. That don't count. Magic Johnson with hair, I did not see in my lifetime. That's different. Soda tapes or whatever. But Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, Chris Paul's right there. There are some others as well, and I would like to see him get a championship at some point to sort of not validate him to people who know basketball, but validate him to people who think that in this rings culture that you have to win in order to, be validated to some degree. Like, people will hold against you that you don't have a Grammy, that they'll hold against you that you don't have an NBA championship. Just that milestone, so then the casuals and the people who only care about mainstream success could give him his just due. Because I don't know if that's going to be the case if that doesn't happen. But I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that we do respect him for what he's done. Because think about it, 15 years in the game at that size, which is very hard to do. He's, I think, 35-ish years old now, and you're talking about he still, to this day, is the best pure point guard in the league. Not the best player playing the point guard position, Steph, Damian Lillard, etc. But he is the best pure point guard, pass first point guard in the NBA still, and probably has been for most of the last 10 years, or whatever the case may be. And should have been an MVP in 2008, no disrespect.
No doubt should have won the MVP. And he probably would have a title if, rest in peace, David Stern did not cancel that trade to Los Angeles Lakers. But, that's neither here nor there. Okay. What makes Chris Paul, to me, so incredible is, again, to Brian's point, this deep into the game. And obviously, Chris was never like an A++ athlete. But at this age of his career, most of that stuff's robbed from him, right? But what has not gone away, he still probably has, and that includes LeBron, the best basketball mind, right, in the game. He knows every single inch of that court where everyone has to be, where he's got to be. He calls out the opponent's defense. Nope, that ain't what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be over here. Like, that's Chris Paul, right? He knows where everything's supposed to be. And what I loved about last night, he played 40 minutes in an elimination game and did not turn the ball over once. For someone who holds the ball as much as he does, Jesus, that's insane. Because he knows, if I get to this spot and that spot, this is going to be a good shot. Okay, if I get here, this guy gets here, we're going to be good. Chris, to Brian's point, he's very high on my small guards list. Small, anybody under 6'3". He's right up there. He's, Brian, you said this. He's Zeke without the rings and something else and some other stuff. But that's yeah.
That stuff is important to mention.
Well, of course, because we do not condone sexual harassment on this show.
Yes.
But he, that's how good Chris Paul is. And he's an excellent offensive player. Scorer, can sets everything up. He's wonderful. And I think, look,
Mommy
right now,
the computer charger.
Jamal's trying to stiff farm him, yo.
Mommy needs
Jamal's like, yo, I got to do this thing right now.
Look, hey, sometimes kids need a computer charger. It's all good.
They got to do what they got to do.
But this is why I said Jimmy Butler shouldn't bring his family into the You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying.
But Chris is one of my favorite point guards to watch. And look, we're at the back 9 of his career. Back 3. All right, so be thankful for what we get to watch, because it ain't gonna be much longer when we get to see him.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely glad for what we've seen. Jamal, your thoughts on Chris Paul and you doing the stiff arm to your kid is, I know I have to do that sometimes. It happens.
It was the Heisman, you know what I'm saying? No, I mean, Chris Paul is great player. People forget when he was in Houston 2 years ago, if he hadn't gotten hurt, that might have been his chance to get that ring, because they were the better team most of that series. And the following year, obviously, I think there were chemistry issues probably between him and Harden had taken.
Which we should talk about, by the way.
So I mean, he's a great player. I was surprised this year that he was able to do what he did with Oklahoma City. I don't think anybody expected them to be as good as they were. He obviously makes people around him better. He has those young kids playing well. So, and to me, the series now between OKC and the Rockets is equally about the Rockets' inability to get things done as it is about how good OKC is. I picked the Rockets in 7 to begin with. I think talent-wise, they should have been able to handle this series. And I think we've seen that in the games. When they've come to play, they've blown out the Thunder in a couple games this series. The Thunder haven't blown out the Rockets.
They've won all close games. They've won all close games, though, Jamal.
That's what I mean. But they won close games. But on the other end, when Houston has really done what they're supposed to do, they've taken care of business. So I really think it's a lot to do with Harden and Westbrook. And I do think that Paul was a better fit than Westbrook, even in Houston.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I know you wanted to say something about that Westbrook, that Harden, Paul thing. Go ahead, Dexter. I know you wanted to say on that.
Oh no, I do. I want to get spicy and messy on this one right here. The question I want to know from you guys, if I could ask Chris Paul this question, I would. How bad does he want to win this game 7?
Yes.
We know how motivated Chris Paul is just in general. You were speaking about that, Gerard, his mind, and also, he's been known to wear on some of his teammates. But you got to think that he wants this badly. How good would it make him feel to walk off that court sending James Harden and Westbrook, who he has traded for, home?
He cannot wait. And, Brian, this is something you can appreciate. And, yes, it's going to be height related. But, like,
I thought it had to do with violence, but okay.
Well, that kind of that, too. Basketball is a game dominated by tall men, generally, right? The rim is 10 feet above the ground. It helps to be tall, right? That's just how it works. Do you know how good you have to be at basketball to be Chris Paul's size and be as dominant in this league as he is?
Oh, I know. I tried. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tried. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a level of want to that Chris has that, again, if you're his teammate and you don't want it like that, he's going to wear on you because his brain can't compute. Like, what do you mean you don't want to? Come on, man. And not only that, he's super smart. So he knows what he's supposed to be doing, and you keep messing up, and he'll be like, my dude, we ran this play 6 times now. Come on. Supposed to be over here, right? That's how Chris is. Chris is the kind of guy, and the way he plays the game like the ball belongs to him at all times, right? When you watch him. Like, it's his, always. And that kind of belief is incredible. And he was the perfect fit for James Harden. But clearly, and y'all know James is my dude, but clearly James didn't want to rock like that. He'd rather play with Westbrook, which, let's be fair, Chris Paul is a better player than Russell Westbrook. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Rockets do whatever, and they blow them out. But why can't they win close games with 2 of the supposed best players in the league? Russ was atrocious down the stretch because, as per usual, when things are tight, Russ goes into, it's all about me. I'm going to go crazy and do crazy things, right? And it doesn't work out. Chris, level-headed, let's get into our stuff. Let me get some space, run this pick here. He understands how to get to the spot he wants to. Instead of Russ, who's just like so alpha, I'm just going to go crazy. Yeah, that may work sometimes. Doesn't work all the time. And I think that's what you're seeing in these close games. In a close game, you'd rather have Chris Paul than Russ running your team, right? Because Chris is going to get you what you want. Russ, he might blow by somebody and dunk on him. He might also throw the ball away, right? Like,
is Russell Westbrook 6'4" Giannis?
Here's why. Here's why he's not. That's a good question, but here's why he's not. And I'll I hate answering questions with a question, but the question has to be thrown back. Do you believe Russell Westbrook's shot will improve in the next 2 to 3 years, or do you believe Giannis' shot will improve in the next 2 to 3 years? The answer is pretty simple to me.
We know Russ ain't, because this is what year is this for him? 12, 13? I mean, no,
12.
Giannis, possibly because he's younger and got, but Russ.
I'm just talking about today.
I mean, Giannis' shot has already improved from last year.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
Oh yeah.
He was more like Ben Simmons last year, not even taking the shot.
Right.
So Ben Simmons. When you take the shot alone, that makes you more of a threat.
Agreed.
So he's doing that, and he's actually hitting probably at a higher percentage than people thought he would.
I will say this. Yes, agreed to all those points. But just because you want to become a better shooter doesn't mean you have the actual mechanic to become one, right? Yeah. He may take 10 million jump shots in the offseason. He may come back the same shooter he was this past year. That doesn't mean – I'm not saying he will necessarily. All I'm saying is –
but you're making a good point. It's like you can't have all the things you want. You know
right.
what I mean? Some of us want Rihanna. Some of us want Tiana Trump. Like, you know what I'm saying? We can't have those things. Tiana Trump is a porn star.
Yeah, no.
Not related to Donald Trump. So
thanks for making that distinction.
Very, 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 very different. Very different person.
Give me the Beijing girl. I'm good.
Same. The want to does not necessarily translate to the results of what we'd want for that player to actually be better. But I do think Westbrook, the sad thing about him is we saw a point where he was actually shooting at a reasonably decent clip. I think he was hitting about 32% of his three-pointers at one point, and then he just dropped off the cliff. Giannis is still in his prime and is getting better. But I do think, I will say, as we do wrap, I do think that how he shoots going forward in his career is going to have a lot to dictate on how he is able to win. It's going to open up the court for him. It's going to make him more comfortable, as Jamal said. It's kind of a lot to do with how he's going to win. All right, so here's
he also you got to look at his supporting cast. I mean, they were able in the regular season for him to be the only, more than the main threat, but they built an offense around him, kind of like almost like Allen Iverson style. We have a bunch of role players around you. So no question, once you get in the playoffs and you play better teams, it's going to be a little tougher. No, so it's not going to be strict. I mean, if you put him on the Golden State Warriors, I think some of his weaknesses would be hidden. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You wouldn't even care if he took a shot. You'd probably scream on him if he did take a shot.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the organization and what's around him. So when you asked earlier in the show, like whether it's ever really on him, it's on him to an extent, but it's not on him, to the point where if he doesn't get out of the East, he doesn't deserve MVPs or he's not as good as we think he is. He needs better players, just like LeBron when LeBron was his age, he went to Miami because he couldn't get it done in Cleveland, even though he had already won an MVP in Cleveland. So a lot of it is about circumstance.
You need talent around you, 1,000%. And that begs the question, how long is Giannis going to be in Milwaukee before he's like, I'm done with these dudes?
Well, look, before the pandemic, I would have told you he's going to Miami in 2021. But now,
I
don't know what the salary cap looking like.
And look, I do that thing where I tell you guys all the time. I know what the stats and my brain tells me, but I also know what my eyes tell me. And it's the Chris Middleton thing. Right now, to be fair, Middleton was good last night. And I do think, Murph, you can expect Chris to give you 20 a night on about 50% shooting. That's about what you're from every night. Okay, who else I got on that team to help me?
But
Bled does matter, not so much offensively, but if Bled played, Dragic doesn't get off, I don't think, as much as he did in Game 1.
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's a fair point.
Playoff Eric Bledsoe doesn't have the greatest history also.
Well, defensively, offensively.
He's a legitimate athlete at the guard position.
And defensively, he's been good in the playoffs.
And also when you talk about Miami, you got to look at the other way too, in terms of Jimmy Butler's not going to get you 40 every night. Dragic is not going to give you 27 every night on great shooting. So, I mean, it's that was one game. We got to see what happens the rest of the series. It's going to be a long series.
All right. So with that being said, two things. Do you guys do you have Milwaukee bouncing back in Game 2, and who do you have winning Game 7? Rockets OKC.
I'm going to stick with my prediction and at the beginning of the series, and I picked OKC in 7. So I'm riding with the point guard. OKC in 7, and I'll say this about Milwaukee and Miami. If Milwaukee goes down 0-2, they lose it in 6. But if it's 1-1, all right, we going 7.
Interesting.
I'll go with Milwaukee in Game 2 because I still think it's going to be a 7-game series. But I'm not totally convinced that they're just going to all of a sudden play their best game against Miami that they've played really all season, other than one regular season win that they have against them. But I feel like they're going to need to if they're going to win that game because of the way Miami's been playing. Because Miami was good last night, but they could have played plenty better. They could have played substantially better in that game. So Milwaukee's probably fortunate for that. And I'm not picking Houston to win Game 7. I'm not picking Houston to win Game 7. You know what I'm saying? So I would have more of an issue with Houston winning Game 7 than I did with Brandon Ingram winning Most Improved Player.
Wow, because your boy Bam didn't win. All right, Jamal.
No, that's not why. It's because we can't give Most Improved Players to second overall picks drafted 4 years ago. Brandon Ingram's like 23 years old. What do you mean Most Improved? He's entering his prime. He's doing exactly what he was drafted to do. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, but he improved. But he improved. It's most improved. It's called the most improved award because it's how you improved from the year before
to now. So we should name it which top 5 pick lived up to their potential.
No.
I mean, Brian.
Bam was a lottery pick.
Yeah, Bam was a lottery pick.
Back end lottery pick.
Yeah, but
she's the last pick of the lottery.
She's still a lottery pick.
Look, if I had a most improved ballot, Bam would have been 1. Probably Shea 2nd, who was a back-end lottery pick, and then Devontae Graham 3rd, who was a second.
Devontae was good this year.
He was good.
Yeah,
he legitimately improved. He legitimately probably improved the most.
Yeah. Too bad Charlotte's trash.
He played on Charlotte.
This is another discussion for another day. Jamal, who you got?
Game 2, I guess. Yeah, I'll lean Milwaukee. I don't agree if they go down 0-2 that it's over. I think.
I didn't say over. I said
yeah. I mean, but it's like, the neutral court. There's no going back to different home courts. I think it just changes the dynamic in terms of that. Like, anybody could win any given night. So yeah, I'll give the edge to Milwaukee game 2. And OKC Houston, to me, it's 100% toss up. But I'll stick with what I picked in Houston in 7. I'll take that. I'm not, like I just said, I'm not all that confident in that. But I can't say I would be confident in OKC to win it either. So we'll see. We'll see. Harden needs a signature game. Okay, James Harden, he's a great player, great, especially in the regular season, great, tremendous offensive player. But what's holding him back, we all know, is his playoff performances. Okay, and if anybody ever needed a big time Game 7 performance where you showed people that I am a superstar, so I'm talking like an efficient 35 plus, triple double type. That's what I need to see from Harden. And maybe I'll be quiet for a couple of days if he does it.
That's a great point.
It's true. If you think about it, he doesn't really have
a
playoff moment, like a signature playoff moment that guys of his caliber have. He doesn't really have.
No, it's a great point.
He's been to the playoffs a lot too.
Right, he's 30 years old, right? He's at least 30 years old.
11th year in the league.
I mean, come on, man. It's time, bro. It's time.
And all the moments we remember are like the bad ones.
Right.
Right.
Flaming out
he
at
had
the end of the
some
game.
Very bad ones.
The Oklahoma City stuff, though he was young, I give him a break for that one, but a lot of people don't. But like all we remember is him sort of just running out of gas. This has been the last 3 whatever playoff runs for Houston. So
yeah, I think. Real quick, go ahead, Gerard.
No, I was gonna say real quick before we go that last play in the game before they left. I love the idea of doing a Westbrook Harden pick and roll, but I'm like, are you guys like, should the ball have been in Harden's hand versus Westbrook at the end?
I mean, everything I saw from Westbrook up to that point makes me feel like the ball should have been in Harden's hands. Westbrook turned the ball over 6 times. I didn't need to see it. He also had just recently airballed a shot on their last offensive possession, airballed a 17-footer. I didn't need to see the ball in his hands at that point. And it's because of that, because of seeing that, and because of what Jamal mentioned, which is a fantastic point, that we have not seen anything from Harden in these big-time moments. And we talked at this beginning of this discussion about Giannis. And talking about, does he need this moment? Does he need to step up in game 2? No, like Jamal makes this great point. All the pressure in this night that we're talking about really is on James Harden right here. Some of it's a little bit on Russell Westbrook, but a lot of it is really on James Harden. This is the guy we might be talking about the next time we have a discussion about, it'll be funny in our next discussion, who really did step up on this night or not. It might be a really fantastic thing to look back on because it's on James Harden. Here's the thing. I'm going to make my pick. You know what it comes down to, guys? I got more faith in Chris Paul, man. I got more faith in CP3. That's just what it comes down to. I trust him more to make the plays. Jamal made a great point. Should the Rockets be getting more out of what they have? Absolutely. They have the better roster, the better team, the more talent to space the floor, but they're not. And there has to be something. If the game is tight tomorrow, who do you guys like? I like
CP3,
OKC.
You know that.
Because CP3 is, as you said, Gerard, he's going to slow it down, calm everybody down, get it going. So I think that in terms of the Bucks and Giannis, I think Giannis is going to respond, man. I don't know how strong and good of a response this is, but I think he's going to respond. Now, he can't let his emotions get too much into him, as you brought up before, Gerard, but I think he responds. I think the Bucks get back to this, and it's 1-1, but I think that series is going 7, and I think Miami's going to win in 7. So that's it. But look, it's on James Harden. He's got to step up. Because I'm telling you, if James Harden does not step up, we're having another one of these.
But isn't it great? We're saying we're agreeing the pressure's on Harden, but you don't really hear that. You don't hear anybody like really talking about Harden.
Brian does.
Because
the pressure's on him.
People don't trust him anyway. They don't even expect him.
Damn.
No, Murph, no.
That's a good point, though.
You bring up an excellent point, and there is some truth to that, right? Yeah. Bo says this all the time. Like, watching Harden play is like watching somebody commit insurance fraud, right? Like, his whole game of, like, backing up the car into you or whatever, right?
Which is genius.
You went to fouls, right? Which, of course, is genius. But, listen, and y'all know, Harden's my dude. But if he does not play well in this Game 7 and they lose, I can't defend that. Like, yo, my dude, you are a perennial MVP candidate. Already won it once. You finished second a bunch of times. You got to be that dude, man. Like,
And
you have to.
he talks shit to people who do win the MVP. He talks shit to Giannis. He talks shit to Steph. He was on TV earlier this year saying we're gonna get it done. This is our year. I don't have any doubt.
Giannis can't play basketball. All that stuff.
Also, do remember at the end of last year, he said he knew what changes needed to be made. This team has made changes. This team has made changes, and the changes on the other team. So if he loses, I'm telling you, if he loses, we're having another one of these let's discuss sessions right here.
I cannot defend him if he loses and plays poorly. Now, if he plays well and they still lose, well, fuck. I don't know.
Better play
It kind of depends.
Awesome.
See, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that right now as you were saying that.
Yeah.
And I think it depends how well and how it looks. Like, does he get 40, but is he putting up 38 shots? Like, it kind of just depends on how the optics are.
Like, if he does like his normal like efficient thing, but Russ is like 0 of 20, well, what the hell? My second guy is terrible. What do you want me to do?
Then we'll be saying Russ is cooked, and he's probably like, a B or a C player from here on out.
Good luck with Russ the rest of that contract, because don't want that.
It ain't gonna be
Knicks
good.
don't get any ideas.
Yeah, please.
Knicks.
Oh, please. Oh, God. Please,
You already
no.
know. Listen. Let me say something.
He'll be a Knick next year.
Last thing.
And I will no longer be a fan.
We know RJ Barrett needs a point guard.
Oh.
The last point guard
The
last point guard he needs is anyone who plays like Russell Westbrook. That's no disrespect. Just how styles make fights. Those two styles don't make anything. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense.
It's going to stunt his growth. RJ will be terrible. It's not going to help him at all.
Really?
He actually needs,
really?
He actually needs Chris Paul. But
Really?
Of course he needs Chris Paul.
Really? So you guys going to end this discussion for making me feel even more hopeless than I do about my New York Knicks. All right, that's it. That's for Brian Fonseca, Gerard Hector, Jamal Murphy. We'll have to wait and see who actually steps up in the games when it matters.